Hey, Brandon, how are you?
I am doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me on today, Sarah. Really am honored and to be one of your first guests. I know you call them ordinary, but just want to let you know I'm extraordinary.
Well,
Just kidding,
you know
just
what,
kidding.
Brandon? You do fit the extraordinary part. Hey, I'm glad to have you. You're actually, if this lines up right, you're the first guy that we've had
Okay.
fully on the podcast. So no pressure. You just got to represent well today.
I'm going to try my best. So thank you for having me on.
You're going to do great. So, Brandon, I want to start with this. Tell people, how do we know each other?
We have worked together for the last 3 years at Two Rivers Church in O'Fallon, Missouri,
Yeah.
just outside of St. Louis. And you started out as the part-time worship leader, and I'm a youth pastor. And now you've moved all the way up to director of staff. Is that your title?
I have
Chief
no
of
idea.
staff. And so now I am honored to say you're my boss. And it's been great to work with you.
It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed getting to know Brandon and just his story. He is a lot of fun. So, Brandon, I actually want to start with this. Okay, so you said you work at Two Rivers Church. Tell us a little bit about your job there.
So for the last almost 3 years, I've been the youth pastor, and youth pastor means I'm the pastor of 6th through 12th grade students. And yeah, it's been amazing. It's my first time being a youth pastor. I have some great youth leaders that volunteer underneath me. I work with some great pastors who support and believe in the next generation coming up. And so it's been a blast. I've gotten to be a kid hanging out with teenagers, but at the same time, it's been amazing. It's been a privilege to be able to serve in that way.
So no pressure, and I know you really can't have favorites, but I'm pretty sure there's at least 2 girls that might be some of your favorites that might share my last name. Can you neither confirm nor deny that? Or
Your 2 daughters, Lily and Evelyn, I pray for them a lot because they have 2 parents that I wonder about. So
I know. Actually, one of the first things, one of our first conversations, I remember early on, Lily was like, I think maybe in 7th grade when you started.
Yeah.
And Brandon was being so nice and was like, Sarah, you and Will just are great parents. I could just tell through Lily. And I remember looking at you going, you have no clue.
No, you guys are amazing parents.
Well,
and so your kids are evidence of that.
Well, I did not ask you to brag on that, but
No,
we'll
for real.
take it. It's a group effort, and Brandon helps invest in so many kids' lives. So I want to back up, Brandon. Tell us about, because some of this don't think I even know. Where did you grow up? I need like a little Brandon story, like 8-year-old Brandon, tell us the beginnings.
So I grew up in Dayton, Ohio,
and
grew up in somewhat of a Christian home. Even if my parents weren't going to church, it's kind of funny. They always had us in church. And so that's why I say somewhat of a Christian home. And I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, and so I have 2 younger sisters. My parents actually never were married. So my dad, he lives in Colorado. My mom raised me and my sisters in Ohio. My dad has another daughter, and so she's 13 years old and lives in Colorado. But grew up with 2 younger sisters. I was the oldest brother, teased my sisters growing up. I gave my life to the Lord when I was a young kid. And then really in high school, though, my faith took a step forward. And really it was at a church. It was at a youth group. And God really changed my life then. And so led me to go to Bible college to study to be a pastor. And so I think that's...
So here you are.
Mm-hmm.
So before you came to Two Rivers, what were you doing kind of job occupationally before that?
So as I was working on my master's degree, I was a substitute teacher.
You have your master's degree?
I do. You didn't know that?
I think I do know that actually now that I remember looking at your resume, but
yes.
Wow, you're smarter than I thought. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're
So
welcome.
I was a substitute teacher, which loved that. Got to hang out with teenagers in the public schools. I moved to Denver, Colorado, and I worked at a nonprofit called the Denver Rescue Mission. And I was a volunteer coordinator. Then I was a chaplain for the guys that were going through it was a Christian-based rehab program that the goal was to help a homeless guy come off the street and then in a year and a half be a self-sufficient citizen. And it was a Christian-based program. So I was kind of a case manager and a chaplain, a spiritual influence on the guys as they went through the program. I did that for a few years, loved it. I moved back to Missouri to be closer to family and worked with foster care teenagers with an amazing organization, actually in St. Louis, called the Missouri Baptist Children's Home. Did that for over a year, and then the opportunity opened up for me to be the youth pastor here in O'Fallon.
So have you always had a love for teens or serving people? Because all of your jobs are really kind of based around that.
Yeah, so I knew in high school I felt really strong. I knew in the deepest part of my heart that God wanted me to be in full-time ministry.
Okay.
And so it was one of those things that I think God just spoke to me, or you just know in your knower
Yeah.
that if you were to do, I knew if I was to do anything else with my life, I wouldn't be obeying the calling that God had on my
Yeah.
life. But I didn't know exactly what that looked like. I didn't know if ministry was a youth pastor or a missionary or a pastor or whatever, and
Yeah.
so I kind of just took it one step at a time. And God, I felt like, guided me one step at a time. He doesn't always show us everything out in the future, but he does guide us into the
Yeah.
next season of
Yeah,
life.
absolutely.
And so yeah, that opportunity opened up in Denver to work at a nonprofit, and then the next step kind of opened up, and then the next step opened up. So I'm just along for the journey.
That's
And
awesome.
I don't know. I love being a youth pastor. I don't know if I'll be a youth pastor till I'm 70, but I'm enjoying it for now.
That would be an interesting story.
Yeah.
I'd kind of love to see you trying to do that. Hey, so Brandon, this is totally, I did not tell him I was going to ask this, but I think you have a really interesting story about your time in Denver and working with homeless people. Did you do some kind of experiment or something? I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah, so
Is
it's
this a
a long
story we can tell?
It's definitely a
Okay.
story we can tell. It's really looking back, it was kind of a crossroads in my life. But I was actually living in Missouri at the time, and I was looking for a youth pastor job or a ministry job, something to open up. And I had the whole summer off because I was a substitute teacher while I was going through seminary. And so I'm like, man, this might be my last summer to just kind of do whatever.
Yeah.
And so I made a big list of bucket list items for the summer, like what should I do? And the one that I circled and decided on was to go out to Denver and to live as a homeless person. And so I knew I wanted to go to Denver someday. That was one of my goals. And I thought, what better way to start off doing ministry in Denver than to live with the homeless? And so I did that. I drove out, long story, parked my car at a friend's uncle's house, and I just walked downtown and stayed at the homeless shelters, slept under a bridge, met the homeless guys. I never told them that what I was doing. I kind of just flew under the radar, and a lot of cool stories in and through that. But while I was a homeless guy in Denver, I went to the Denver Rescue Mission to eat and to go to the chapel and to stay the night there. And I thought, whenever I moved to Denver, no matter what I do, I want to volunteer at the Denver Rescue Mission. And so I did that when I moved to Denver, started speaking in their chapel and volunteering on the food line, the food service line, and ended up turning into a job. And then, so.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what was your biggest takeaway or something? I mean, that had to not be easy and hard. And I'm sure you met a lot of interesting people.
Oh, yeah,
but,
absolutely.
I mean, was it ever a little scary or?
Very much so, yeah.
Okay.
I had family members that weren't happy with what I was doing.
I bet.
And so I even left my phone at home. I would go to the library and email my mom, like, Mom, I'm still alive. Don't worry. But yeah, I'll never forget. Probably the thing that stuck out to me the most was this one night. I met a few homeless guys. One of them, the name was Chico. And Chico invited me to sleep under the bridge with he and some of his guys. It was almost like a little homeless community.
Okay.
Chico it was summer, so I didn't really need it, but he got me a sleeping bag. And so I get back under it's the Spear Street Bridge right by the REI in downtown Denver. And it's like 1 a.m. and I'm just hanging out with the guys, and they're smoking and drinking, and the conversation was entertaining. I was just kind of like a fly on the wall in a sense. Homeless guys, they're not to be mean, but they're self-consumed. They don't really ask like about you or like what's your story. I mean, Chico was nice in the sense he got me a sleeping bag. He thought of me, but nobody really asked me like, why are you here?
Yeah.
So I was just a fly on the wall, and I remember they were sitting around, and one guy was playing guitar, and so for some reason he handed me a guitar, and I'm not a musician, but I know a few like secular songs on the guitar, like Sweet Home Alabama and stuff like that. So I started playing some secular songs. They were like all about it. And then I run out of stuff to play. And so then I start singing worship songs. And Chico looks at me. The other guys look at me and they're like, I won't say it on air, but they're like, yeah, man, beep, that's beeping good. Keep singing that beep. And so,
awesome.
So all of a sudden I start playing Amazing Grace, and we're
Mm,
sitting underneath this bridge in downtown Denver with like 6 homeless guys, and they know the words. And
wow.
so I'm singing this
Oh,
song, and like I cannot believe this is happening right now. I'm singing Amazing Grace with homeless men under a bridge
wow.
in the middle of the night in Denver, and so that really fueled my just passion to go to Denver and work
Yeah.
at the Denver Rescue Mission.
Brandon,
So
that's
yeah.
such a cool story. I love that. I love it. So tell me about being a youth pastor. Like what has been surprising about that? What has been hard about that? What are you
Oh man. Well, I mean, working with people, there's always challenges to it,
Yeah.
but honestly, I've enjoyed every step of it. As far as being a youth pastor, one thing that I really have come to realize is it's all about relationship.
Mhm.
I spend hours praying and thinking and working on my messages, which I
Yeah.
love speaking to teenagers, and I think that makes a difference, but really boils down to relationship. And I tell that to my small group leaders that serve at our youth ministry. It's relationship, relationship, relationship. And
Yeah.
a kid doesn't really care how much you know until they know how much you care about them.
Absolutely.
And so we really try to be relationship based in small groups and activities. And our small group leaders do a great job reaching out to their kids, even if it's not at church.
Yeah.
And Phoenix and I, my wife, we do the same thing with kids. And so really, it's all about relationship. And looking back in my youth group, I don't remember a lot what my youth pastor said, but I remember my relationship with him.
Yeah.
I remember going to camp or not camp, but retreats and missions
Mhm.
trips and stuff. And so it's all about relationship, really.
That's really cool.
Hmm.
So we've been in the middle of coronavirus time, which
Yes.
has affected everybody. Not a person not affected by that.
Hmm.
And it's just been super interesting your job and
Yeah.
with teens and their school year didn't end the way it was
Right.
supposed to. You have the whole seniors that you've got that
Hmm.
didn't get to graduate, didn't get to do prom and all of those things. What have you been hearing or experiencing with teenagers kind of in this season?
Yeah, everything that they care about so much keeps getting canceled.
Yeah.
And so on one end of the spectrum though, it's been a good thing in a sense for some of our teenagers that are so motivated. They have
Yeah.
jobs, they have multiple extracurricular activities, they have homework which they excel in school. Our
Yeah.
kids are high achievers. And so at first it kind of put them in the slow lane of life, and I think that
Mhm.
helped with anxiety and just some of the stresses of life
Yeah.
to get out of the busyness. But as it's gone on, it's just disappointing. Everything is canceled, and you
Yeah.
just can't really look forward to the future in some senses because you just don't know
Right.
what's going to happen. And so
Right.
I feel for them. I think it's taken a toll. We've worked really hard at maintaining relationships, whether it be Zoom groups
Yeah.
online, trying to build an online youth ministry, and
Yeah.
so yeah.
That's good. So for any teens listening, oh my voice is cracking. Hold on. Wow, there's real life moments. For any teens or younger students, college age listening, what is some encouragement that you would just give them in life? Being you're a little further along age wise. What's something that you would tell them or encourage them right now?
When life gets crazy, especially, it's just get back to the basics, get back to the fundamentals.
Yeah.
We don't know what the future holds, but we do know who holds the future. I know that's
Mm,
cliche, but it's so true. One thing I tell our students, and I would tell anybody, it is our relationship with God is the most important relationship.
mm,
And sometimes loneliness or being separated is an invitation from God to grow deeper in your walk with Him and
yeah.
to spend time with Him. So I tell students all the time that their alone time with God, whether that be prayer or Bible reading or journaling or whatever it
Yeah.
is for them, that alone time with God is the most important time of the day. It's the most important relationship in their life. And that church and serving God is not all about the rules.
Hmm.
God does want us to obey Him, but it's about that relationship with God. It's
Yeah.
about knowing Christ, not just knowing about Christ, but knowing Him. So I just encourage teens, no matter what is going on in life, to really press into your walk with God, to spend time with the Lord, because really that's the most important relationship in life. And from that, everything in life flows from our walk with God.
That's good. I think that's a good reminder for
Yeah.
all of us, no matter what age we are. Definitely for students and for them learning that at that age is going to make such a huge difference as they grow. and mature. But for all of us, that, like you said, it's the most
Yeah.
important relationship. And when we don't have that in focus, then everything else kind of gets
Right.
hard and out of focus. But so there are a lot of people listening that are maybe either parenting teenagers, maybe they're aunt and uncle, maybe they just have influence
Right.
somewhere with some teens. What would you encourage them just, man, the life of teenagers as you're seeing it super up close, what it's like to be that age? How would you encourage them to relate to them or what, anything?
Absolutely. So there's a saying that was taught to me years ago, and it makes so much sense. Rules without relationship equals rebellion, and so we've got to have relationships with our teenagers. And life gets so busy, and there's so many hobbies and things that pull us away from relationship. But as a parent, I'm not a parent yet, but I see it where parents say, do this, don't do that, go to church, blah, blah, and so it's all about the do's, do's, do's. But
Yeah.
really, rules without relationship equals rebellion. So a kid has to have a relationship with you, or what you say is kind of falling on deaf ears. And another thing I like to say is, he who spends the most time wins. And whether you have a teenager or whether you're in ministry working with kids or people in general, he who spends the most time wins. And so I encourage, especially moms with their sons, like, find a way to get into their world. Go play basketball with them, even if you stink. Make them sit down and say, "Hey, we're gonna play Monopoly tonight."
Yeah.
And you might get a little pushback at first, but then once you're in the middle of it, that is so valuable to kids, is to have that not only quality but quantity of time. And then dads with their daughters, I just see, working with teenagers, how important a mom's relationship with a son is and how important a dad's relationship with a daughter is. And so whatever it takes to get into their world, rules without relationship equals rebellion. He who spends the most time wins. And I'll give a shout out to one of the pastors on our staff, Nick. His wife, Amy, plays basketball with her son and her son's friends.
That's
and
awesome.
She probably stinks. You can tell her I said that, but she's doing that. I remember talking to Mason about it, and I could tell it was important to him. And so get into your kid's world, and I think
those little
key.
moments make a huge difference, right? And you don't realize, I know Will and I have just talked about in our own parenting journey of, when we ask our kids what do they remember, they're never remembering the things we bought them, the things we didn't tell them to do. They're remembering the moments. And like, even sometimes where I'm like, I didn't even remember that made a big difference to you, but it made a huge difference. And so, whether you're a parent or just have some teens around, getting into their world, spending time with them is huge. Okay, Brandon. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about your family life a little bit. You have a really interesting and hard story that happened over the last couple years. Would you want to talk about that with us for a little bit?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to talk about it, but I want to, and because I think it might help some people. But so my sister, who is she was the middle child, and really close growing up. I was her big brother, so I always teased them, and I was really close to my sisters. But as I grew older, got into college, we became more friends. We developed a deep friendship. So I was really close to my sister, and in 2015, she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then a week or so later, we found out it was stage 4, which is never a good thing. If you have struggled with cancer or know somebody that struggled, that's like the worst news, to be in stage 4 and it to be that aggressive and advanced. And so, our world was flipped upside down. As the bigger brother, I did everything in my power to, try to find the best course of treatment. And, she was, it was up to her decisions, but I was trying to do the best that I could, and so she ended up getting down to supposedly the best cancer hospital in the country, one of them, MD Anderson, did 6 months of chemo. It's not really clear if the cancer ever went away, but soon after her chemo was done, it came back. And then the next step in treating Hodgkin's lymphoma is to do stem cell transplant, and it's a pretty intense procedure. Makes you not be able to have kids, and they really don't give you a great chance of even beating it. But that's the next line of treatment. And so she was kind of back and forth on what she wanted to do on that. She did some naturopathic stuff, and she did a clinical trial, and then some of that stuff really worked for a couple years. We were praying all along, and I believe God answers huge prayers
Yes.
as well as small prayers. So for those 2 years after she started doing the clinical trial and the naturopathic stuff, we thought maybe God had healed her, and
Yeah.
she looked amazing and she was, doing so well. And then she started to have symptoms, and she was told by her doctor that it wasn't cancer, it was just pneumonia. And so for a long time, but it ended up being cancer. And so
Okay.
by the time she got back into the hospital, she was pretty far along again in
Okay.
the cancer. And so then she did chemo. And during that time of doing chemo, she did not respond very well. The cancer was being aggressive, and she ended up getting an infection and passing away.
Mm.
So the good news is she was a firm believer, had a strong
Yeah.
relationship with God, and all along we were praying for God to heal her on earth, but ultimately He healed her in heaven.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that people call Christianity a crutch sometimes, but and sometimes God does hold us up when we're going through tough
Yeah.
times, and I
Yeah.
think our faith is built more than just on a crutch when life gets tough. But it is so comforting to know and believe with my full heart that God did heal her,
Yeah.
just not the way I wanted. So
Right. Absolutely. Brandon, what did those moments and days and months and even out just celebrated the 2-year anniversary,
yeah,
right? July
right.
1st,
July 1st, 2018 is when she passed.
2 years.
Yep.
What did that look like? What were those moments? I'm sure they were incredibly difficult, but
Oh yeah. I mean, you want to be there for your mom and your dad and
yeah.
my other sister, but honestly, to be gut level honest, I like to isolate,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so it's something that I have to force myself to spend time with family sometimes during those holidays and during the anniversary, because man, it just makes it even tougher.
Yeah.
And it's still very fresh, and I'll probably start crying in a minute, but yeah, being there for each other is huge, but still very fresh, and
Yeah.
you know, but I forget what you even asked.
It's okay. I don't remember now either. No, I
So
was just
you asked how I was celebrating, and we do want to celebrate and mourn at the same time and be there for each other. But I've tried to not think about the what if she would have done this, what if she would have done
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and focus on her life. She lived an amazing life. She worked at the Missouri Baptist Children's Home as well. She had a passion for teenagers. She made a huge difference. So
Yeah.
try to celebrate the good stuff.
She seemed like an amazing
Yeah,
person. I never got to meet her, but
yeah,
was able to attend her funeral and
yeah,
just hearing the stories that were told. You were able to
yeah,
speak at the funeral, which I thought was incredible,
yeah,
and what you shared. And she seemed like she definitely had touched a lot of people.
yeah,
And yeah, it's amazing. Like you said, she's in
mm,
with Jesus, and
yeah,
that's hard here. And
mm,
so what would you say, Brandon? Because it is hard, right? No
mm,
one wants to lose somebody. No one would choose that. Um, and even when we know they're in a better place and we can know that and believe that, it does not make it a magical cure for having to live now, day
yeah,
by day and moment by moment, and birthdays and
right.
holidays pass. What would you say to somebody dealing with that real grief and that real hardness of, hey, I want to trust God, but I'm also kind of angry?
Yeah. Um, don't shove it away. Feel, it's something that you want to talk to somebody about. I did
Yeah.
counseling for a while, and it really helped.
Yeah.
And so probably should keep doing that on a regular basis. It really did help me, especially when the first shock and trauma happened. It
Yeah.
was when people pass away from cancer, a lot of times it's a gradual thing.
Yeah.
Since it was an infection, it was a sudden,
Yeah.
just traumatic
Yeah.
loss, and so there was a lot that I had to talk through, and so seeing a counselor was huge for me. There's a book that really helped me called "Through the Eyes of a Lion" by Levi Lusko, which I really recommend for anybody dealing with any type of grief. That helped me a tremendous
Okay.
amount. Pastor Ron, who's our pastor, he said something during the time of my grieving initially, was that time doesn't heal all wounds, but wounds don't heal without time.
Hmm.
And so giving
It's good.
time, and So that's really helped. I still
Yeah.
have terrible days of grief and waking up in the middle of the night, or,
Mm.
little triggers that I see that'll make me think about my sister. But time is a great healing agent that God gives us. Counseling, God uses that in an
Yeah.
amazing way. And that book really helped me out.
That's good. What would you say for those around you,
Mhm.
maybe just your specific, that was helpful? So for those of us that maybe haven't lost someone or we're trying to help somebody who's dealing with grief, were there things that were really helpful that people did, or also things you would say, hey, maybe don't do that?
Man, that's a great question because everybody means well, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's good to see stuff through that filter. But it's also easy to get upset and offended. Like, how could you say that? You
Right.
haven't
Right.
lost your best friend and your sister
Right.
traumatically, and so I don't know. I think everybody's trying their best. So I would
Yeah.
just say, give yourself patience, give other people grace, give yourself grace. It's not gonna go away quick. I think, like, not rushing the grieving process, not getting rid of belongings too soon, or
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you can be led by your feelings. Like, if you don't feel like um, cleaning out the closet that they had
Right.
their stuff in, then don't do it until you're
Right.
until you're ready. I think that's an important thing. But surrounding yourself with people that that know the person that you lost is
Yeah.
important. And just always, like, I make it a habit to call those that love Brittany the most on a
Hmm.
regular basis. Just, I mean, not even trying to fix them, not even trying to even ask about my sister necessarily, but
Yeah.
just to call, check in. I know my grandpa, he
Mm.
lost his wife and he lost my sister, two of the closest people in his life, in the same couple years.
Yeah.
And so he's
It's a
at
lot.
home alone at nights.
Yeah.
And so I grieve for him a lot. And so
Yeah.
just trying to just stay in close contact. But there is something inside of you that wants to withdraw, that
Yeah.
wants to isolate. And never a good thing consistently to be isolated, maybe for a short time. But I would
Yeah.
say resist isolation, press into relationship, because what's hurt in relationship is also healed in relationship. So
That's good. Is there something that you feel like out of that time that you learned, knew about God and about who he was through that grieving time or through these last couple years?
yeah, you ask yourself why. I mean, there are so many things looking back. If she would have done this treatment instead of this,
Yeah.
then things might have been different. And you ask God, like, man, one little thing you could have changed that would have, the butterfly effect would have changed all the
Yeah.
other stuff.
Yeah.
And so you just wonder why. And really, the thing that my relationship with God took to a deeper place was his sovereignty and his control of every single thing. And how
Mhm.
that works with our free will and his control is still a mystery.
Yeah.
But being able to sit back at the end of the day and say, these things are true. God is in control.
Mhm.
Prayer works. I don't understand everything going on, and I'm okay with not
Yeah.
understanding everything going on. And ultimately, just sitting back and saying, I have to trust God.
Mm.
It's not my job to know the truth in every situation. It's my job to trust God in every situation. So really, to release control and to say, I know, God, you're in control, and you're going to bring good from this, and just kind of have to sit back and just trust. I
Yeah.
know I said the same thing like six
No,
times,
that's
but
okay. That's good.
trusting in the sovereignty of God in all of life situations.
Yeah. So, if you can, I know, what are some good things that maybe you've seen out of this really hard situation?
I mean, her funeral, the gospel was preached at her funeral. I think all of her friends that maybe not were serving God
Yeah.
know Brittany's life, and I
Yeah.
think they were challenged by that, and Brittany's relationship with God was really amazing, and her heart for people and her kindness, and I think the people that know her, that'll make a difference in their life. I can't sit back and say one specific thing, but I
Yeah.
know God promises to bring good out of every
Yeah.
situation. So I know He is, and I know He's going to continue. And there's a lot that I would like to do in honor of my sister. I mean, we've planted a tree. There's been friends and family that have done different things, but
Yeah.
honestly, it's just kind of too soon. It's one of
Yeah.
those things where I
That
know I want to do something in her honor, something big, but I'm not going to rush that, and
right.
I'll know when I know. And
Absolutely.
always keeping an eye out for how I can honor my sister's life. Phoenix was my wife was amazing, where she raised money to get a bench in Brittany's
Mm,
honor. So there's a bench and a Bible verse and a tree at the place she worked, the
wow,
Missouri Baptist Children's Home. So that's one
that's
thing. But
cool.
there's going to be a lot more in the future that we're going to do to honor her life. It's
Yeah.
just still pretty fresh.
Yeah. Well, I love that right now you can share the story because I know that somebody listening is going to have a story similar
Yeah.
or close. And by you sharing something really hard, I know it's going to continue to bring God glory, but it's going to continue to honor Brittany's life,
Right.
that you just speak about it and that you share about it and what could have taken you under.
Yeah.
You didn't allow to, and you keep moving even when it's really hard.
Absolutely.
Just one more thing about grief, because I think sometimes for those of us that are maybe on the outside, like when that, I mean, I remember we were working together when that happened, and it was really hard to know what to say or what to do because you
Yeah.
didn't want to say all the cliche, like,
Right.
you don't want to say that God's working all things
Right.
for good. Although, I mean, we
Yeah.
believe that, but it's like that's not the right time
Right.
or place. How does it feel? Like, are you good with people when they ask about her life? I mean, does that help? Like when people ask things or remember, or is that harder for those of us dealing like that are on the outside? Like, what do we do? Do we say anything? Do we bring it up? Because I think sometimes there's that tension. Like, well, I don't want to make somebody sad by saying something. But what's your take on that for you, at least?
Yeah, I think it's always good to touch base with people, even if it's not asking like for details or to dig up old things, but just
Yeah,
to check in and say, how are you doing? If you ever need somebody to talk to, I'm here for you, or I'm praying
yeah,
for you. You don't have to text me back. I just wanted to say, here for you, love you, and praying for you.
yeah,
If you ever need to talk, please, let me know. And so to have that support and people in my life like you and so many people at our church and family and friends, I feel very supported, and that's important. I don't think everybody that's grieving has that support. So
yeah,
looking for opportunities for God to use you in that, use you just to reach out and say, I'm here for you. How are you?
yeah. That's good. Okay, I don't know how we really completely switch gears after
Oh,
that
that's
because that's
okay.
hard and heavy, but we're going to make a little bit of a
Yeah.
turn because here's one good thing that I see that was happening throughout that really whole hard time.
Yeah.
You were, when I first met you, you were single, not no relationship, which
Yep.
was interesting with you're going to be in I was just like, "Oh my goodness, we're putting this young guy in with a bunch of teenage girls. This is going to be real. How many times are we going to hear Brandon this, Brandon?" But it's been good. It was so good. But you very quickly developed a relationship with your now wife, which the part of the good that I was saying is you developed that
Mhm.
relationship was building and all during that whole time, right? That whole season over these last couple years.
Yep.
So, talk to us a little bit about your relationship with Phoenix. You've just gotten married. You just celebrated 1 year anniversary.
Yes, we did.
What was the date?
August 2nd.
August 2nd, 1 year.
1 year.
You made it.
I did. So I thought I was going to die alone, but God, God blessed me with an amazing, amazing wife. I'm 33, so I was getting pretty old, and I didn't know if it was ever going to happen. But yeah, we dated long distance. I had known her through mutual friends for about 5 years,
Yeah.
and then we struck up a long distance relationship, which wasn't ideal, but through FaceTime and phone calls, and I
Yeah.
wasn't a big texter. I was like, let's not text. It's just all day. I'm like, let's just talk on the phone or FaceTime, and
Yeah.
then through airline miles through our airline credit cards, we
Yeah.
were able to get a lot of free flights. So we would try to see each other every 4 or 5 weeks, whether she came here or I went out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the long distance relationship worked. Every kind of step of the road, if I would have a doubt or like a question about our relationship, I'd pray about it and say, God, I don't know about this part. And before I knew it, like that would be answered in my heart and mind. So it was
Yeah.
really something God had His hand upon, and so thankful for her. She moved here last summer, and then we got married a few months after that. And so
Yeah.
she's been a huge blessing, a huge help in my grieving process, that's for sure. She's so supportive, loves God with all of her heart. Easy to get along with. Our first year of marriage, a lot of people said it's going to be hard and terrible. And I was like, okay. So that
Wait,
hasn't.
hold on a second. If you are married, do not tell other young people that it's going to be horrible. We were joking. We were just actually talking about this. We were at your guys' house, and I was like, why do people feel the need before you get married and before you have children to tell you all of their horror stories? And you're like, great. Why does anybody ever get married, or why does anybody ever have kids? But But you've not had a horrible year. You guys talk about you've actually had a great
Yeah,
year.
I feel like we were both older when we got married, so
Yeah.
I think that helped us being more mature. I would say our relationship with God and just God changing us before we got together was very,
Yeah.
very advantageous. And so, but she's just humble. She's quick to forgive. She doesn't get offended easy. She
Yeah.
looks for ways to serve me. I look for ways to serve her.
Yeah.
I mean, marriage is tough in some senses. We've had disagreements, and I've hurt her feelings, but we've worked through it, and it's been every conflict has been growth, and so
Yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna have tough roads ahead in some
Yeah.
sense, but so far it's been bliss, and it's like having a sleepover every night. It's with your best friend, and but I think there are benefits to getting married older. I think there are benefits to getting married younger.
Yeah.
One of my good friends, he and his wife got married when they were in their early 20s, and it's cool to see them grow up together.
Yeah.
They say a guy's brain is not fully developed till 30, and I think that's absolutely correct. And so, but
That's great.
to have younger people get married to the right type of person,
Yeah.
and then growing up together, I think there are benefits to that too.
So did you think well, okay, because how old were you when you met Phoenix and were you
I met
29, 30?
Phoenix
I mean,
when
like
I
when you
was like
started.
when we started dating. I was 31, I think.
So what did you think? Did you think like, Brandon, I've never asked you this before. This is going to get good right now. Did you think like, I'm just never going to get married? Were you thinking like, no, this
No,
is still going to happen? Like what were you thinking? What was 28, 29-year-old Brandon thinking?
I mean, it was discouraging. I had a handful of serious relationships, and just for one reason or another, they broke up with
Yeah.
me, or I broke up with
Yeah.
them. And so it
Do you
was
want to
one.
tell those stories? I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Maybe next time. Phoenix and I joked that both of our families thought we were just gonna. They thought she was gonna be a nun, and they thought I was gonna be some single dude till the day I died. So when we finally got together, everybody was surprised. But I think the key was Phoenix and I. We could have gotten married to other people and been happy, I think,
Yeah.
but we didn't want to. We didn't want to. I hate to use the word settle, because I
I
really
think
think
that's
you can be married to somebody that loves God and be happy. I'm not necessarily saying God has one person for you. I think God wants you to marry the right type of person. But I think Phoenix and I both waited until we were 100% excited about marrying that person,
yeah.
and
Which I think
so
should probably be for you should be if you're not a little excited about marrying somebody, you might want to reconsider your life
right.
choice right there.
It's not just getting married to get married,
Yeah.
and so we both waited, and it was tough. It really
Yeah.
is tough being single all through your 20s, and
Yeah.
and wanting to be married and
Yeah.
to start a family. But
Which I guess I should say now, I mean, in some ways nowadays, I mean, that's not real. I mean, it's not like you're old by any means.
right,
I mean, it's just sometimes, especially in the circles that we probably run
hmm
in with the college you went to, it was like
hmm
a lot of people are getting married in before they're 25.
right.
And so it kind of seems like once you pass that 25 mark, sometimes
hmm
people start giving, would people say things to you like, ask you about when are you going to get married? I mean, like, would you get those funny single comments?
It's different in Denver. It's very different than in the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
So Denver, it was totally cool. I didn't stick out. But in
Yeah.
Missouri, it's like, well, what's wrong with this guy? So
That's great.
yeah,
Well, that's good. Okay, so I have to ask this. You and Phoenix and Brandon, they're just some of the coolest people. And so you guys do these different like Phoenix is really big on themed nights. So I feel like you guys have had a lot of these adventures. Would you like to just expound on something like you guys have gone camping?
yeah. I mean,
You
we both love camping, but I'm pretty boring in the sense of if I like something, I just want to do it over and over.
Yeah.
Like I want to play tennis, I want to eat Chipotle, I want to go to church and then come home and watch tennis. And she likes variety in life, which is
Yeah.
it's a good balance. And so yeah, she loves themes. And so yeah, one time we camped out on the back porch and I had a fire and made s'mores and stuff like that. And one time we dressed up like hillbillies and went out and ate at some hobo's restaurant. I mean, little things like that just make a big difference to her.
Yeah.
So if I plan something, even if it's small, she loves it. And
I feel like you
um,
guys should keep a running list of all the things you've done, and I think we should just release it as a part of like people would love it. Those are good things.
yeah,
Keeps
it's crazy.
keeps you
Like,
connected.
I mean, one advice to dudes out there. I'm not an expert. I've only been married a year, but if you plan something, even if like it takes minimal thought, but if you show your girl that you plan something for her with
Yeah.
her in mind, it makes a big difference. So
As a female, I would agree. That does make a huge difference. It goes a long way to show that you had some thought to care about it. You guys recently were telling us you did this challenge, a discipline challenge, right? I feel like I need you to talk about this. This is
We called
hilarious.
it Hell Week, and we wrote down every discipline that we thought was good, and we tried to do them for a week and kept each other accountable. Like if, for example, one of mine is flossing is amazing and it's so good for you, and I know that, but I hate flossing. At the end of the day, I'm so tired. I just want to plop in bed. And so before marriage, I just could not conquer that. I know that sounds funny.
I could not.
I'd go for streaks, but being married, it's like if I don't floss, I have to do the punishment that we came up with. So we've helped each other become more disciplined, and it's funny. But
so Hell Week was all these all the disciplines, and you didn't just do them. You did all of the disciplines for 1 week, right?
Yeah.
So name a few more.
They tell an alcoholic to never say, "I'm never going to drink again." They just say, "Today I'm not going to drink again." So we kind of took that. Not that we're alcoholics, but that we took that same mentality to say, we're just going to do this for 1 week straight.
Yeah.
No compromises, no grace, and just go 100%. And then, Monday, then we'll just splurge and just do whatever. But it was fun.
I love it. So Brandon, you're a sports guy. Do you want to talk to me about what sport did you play growing up?
Oh man, I wish I would have started tennis at a younger age. I just love tennis.
This has been
my favorite sport. Since 2015, I've gotten into it.
Okay.
But I grew up playing golf, baseball, football, and I just love sports. Still do.
Okay, you ready?
Played ultimate frisbee this morning with a bunch of people.
Nice. Who's your favorite football team?
Cleveland Browns. I'm never giving up on them, even though they've broken my heart so many times.
Still hold out hope.
Yeah.
Baseball. Who's your favorite team?
Cincinnati Reds, Cleveland Indians.
Okay. Basketball?
College basketball, I like Kentucky Wildcats. The NBA, I'm not too much into it. I was really excited when LeBron won in Cleveland, and kind of the city needed it. They hadn't had a championship for like 50-some years, but I'm not a huge LeBron fan. But
you're a Michael Jordan fan, right?
Oh, yeah.
All the
Michael
way.
Jordan.
Yeah, okay.
I'll watch the NBA playoffs, but I don't get too much into it during the regular season.
Are you a hockey guy at all?
And during the playoffs.
Okay.
I lived here during the Blues championship, and that was a lot of fun.
I was going to say, for not even somebody who's a hockey, I mean, that's kind of cool that we
Yeah,
way to
it
go
was
Blues.
awesome.
Go
St.
Blues.
Louis has some great sports fans.
Yeah. Tennis players. Who's your favorite?
Rafael Nadal. I still think he can go down as the greatest of all time. Totally respect Federer and Djokovic, but I'm rooting for Nadal to break the Grand Slam record when it's all said and done.
So what would be if somebody wants to get into tennis, what's your you got a pro tip for?
I'd say either spend a bunch of money on lessons if you have it. That's the ideal way. Or what I've done is just watch YouTube videos and then go out and get frustrated.
Yeah. So. Go out and get frustrated. I love it. Okay, Brandon. So we're going to wind down our conversation. This has been good. I think people are going to enjoy this episode, Brandon.
I hope so.
They will. You shared a lot of really good things. So the podcast is called Now That's Something Good. So what's something good, Brandon? What's something?
I would just reference the book that I read that helped me so much in grieving. And so if you know somebody that's struggling with grief, or if you're struggling with grief, it's called Through the Eyes of a Lion.
Okay.
And it's by Pastor Levi Lusko. And whether you're a Christian or not, it's still great material on grief. He lost his daughter Christmas Eve, I think it was, to an asthma attacker. It was something traumatic, and just to hear his story and then to hear his grieving process really was inspirational. So Through the Eyes of a Lion. Okay,
that's good. We'll definitely link it in the show notes so people can directly find it. But Brandon, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
It was amazing. You're amazing, Sarah. You're an amazing mom, a pastor, worship leader. I love you and your husband and your family. So proud of you guys for doing this podcast. I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yep.
It's mutual.
Cool.